Hi, this is Ava from Soul GPS. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 3 maladaptive toxic behaviors that narcissists display that can help you to quickly identify one if it pops into your orbit. This is a list I have compiled throughout my own life, encountering these people on my path, and I have been using these 3 traits as a way to quickly identify someone so that I don't get involved with a person who's going to, in the end, cause me much hurt and pain because it's just not necessary anymore. So, of course, I want to also encourage you to set boundaries in all of your relationships, not only with narcissists, but a healthy person will appreciate boundaries and you too will benefit from them. So do that, and also use your intuition, which is a collection of your experiences that sort of gives you a hint quickly in a moment, along with a visceral feeling, and that communicates to you, gives you like a barometer reading about a person. So do use it. But in addition to that, in addition to your intuition, I also want to encourage you to look at these 3 traits and use it in addition. So that's going to give you a little bit more of a rounder picture. One more thing before I get to the traits is that at the end of this video, I will be mentioning my retreat that I'm putting together with a team of fantastic women. It's called Etna Unleashed. It will take place on September 25th in Sicily, Italy. There's also a video I have recorded that talks about the program in depth that you can see underneath this video in a link. So the first trait is attention seeking. People who are narcissistic cannot get enough attention. They will do anything and everything. When someone takes the spot, they will want to outdo them. They will want to do something more outrageous, tell a bigger story, be louder, be more entertaining, whatever it is, just to get that attention. That's predominantly from the classic narcissist, the overt narcissist, we call them, a person who's a little bit more extroverted in their behavior, and they're going to be taking up the space. They're going to fill up the air in order to get that attention. This doesn't necessarily need to happen like this. It can also happen in a much more demure, subtle way. I've seen people who need a lot of attention just trail others with their eyes, make faces, just, I don't know, there's something about their energy that is just like acts like gravity. They just need to get that attention. And why do they do that? I think it comes from some sort of a trauma, in the past, in childhood probably. Maybe they didn't get enough, or they needed to fight for attention, where attention and love were treated as the same thing, which in a sense they are. And it's a form of trauma, and if that person comes from a family that also has an adult who was a narcissist, then there is a likelihood that something will be missing. They're gonna need to work on something later down the road, and maybe if they don't want to work on that and they developed full-on narcissistic disorder, they're going to continue propagating this kind of behavior. So, and that comes from usually one or both of the parents also having that. It's something that gets learned very early on in childhood, and this internal feeling like there isn't enough love, like there needs to be constantly some kind of a supply that will provide the fuel to fill that hole. It's a chronic thing that these people will do. Now, just looking for attention, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're dealing with a toxic narcissist. It could be that you're dealing with a person who's extremely insecure and needs boundaries, and you may be the one to show them how to set those boundaries by not giving them the attention and taking care of yourself as you see fit. So the second trait is necessary here, and that is chronic selfishness. So these people are people who everything they do is really ultimately about themselves. There's going to be usually an altruistic mask that works for a period of time, usually just for a few days or weeks. And sooner or later, the selfishness will leak through. It will start showing through. And the altruism, the mirroring, the manipulation of seemingly being there for another person is just a shorter spiel that is there to cover up the truth and to get you hooked so that you get attached. And once you get attached, even if you see the selfishness, it will be difficult to pull yourself away because you are so invested emotionally. So look for selfishness, and it displays in many, many different ways. It can be about, again, attention. It can be about making decisions that only benefit that person. It can look like affection and attention withdrawal because they don't feel like it, because all they're thinking is about themselves. It could be when the going gets tough, when you get ill, when you don't feel well, they're going to basically throw you under the bus, leave you hanging, tell you what an inconvenience you are, turn away and go somewhere else. And they're also going to be the kinds of people who, they leave you in a heartbeat because they find someone else who is more interesting. So many different examples of selfishness, but it tends to be chronic. You can see it all the time. And you can also find it in conversation, when the person is just constantly getting your attention and they're not really bouncing that ball back. I was talking to a group of friends the other day about this, and somebody drew a really good metaphor. He said it's kind of like playing pool or playing ball. Sorry, it's kind of like playing ball, but playing pool comes to mind, and you'll see why in a second. Because when you are dealing with a normal person who is engaging on an equal level, it's like you're throwing them a ball and they're going to catch it and they're going to throw it back at you, and you get this nice flow going, this exchange. With a narcissist, it's kind of like you're throwing the ball and it gets sunk like in a billiard pool. It just goes down and it's not reciprocated. So you have to produce another one if you want to continue and keep throwing these balls, and maybe one or two will bounce back at you, but after a while you're going to feel quite depleted because, again, ultimately it's all about them. And the third trait is victimhood. Narcissistic people at the core feel like the victims. That's why it is so difficult to get them to take responsibility for anything they do, because ultimately it's always everybody else's fault. They're the ones who have been hurt. And it's because the world being the way it is, that their life is the way it is. It's because of their parents that they are the way they are. It's because of their teachers that they think the way that they do. It's because, fill in the blanks, that they are in the situation they're in. While it is true to some extent that, life is tough and some things happen because we didn't get a good start. Sometimes people take away opportunities from us. Sometimes they stab us in the back. We get betrayed. We get left behind. But ultimately, I think it's really important to look at your life and kind of go, okay, these things happened. What can I do now to take my power and direct my life in a way that will allow me to progress forward without the need to blame the whole world, right? Where can I take more responsibility? But also not too much responsibility to the point where you're carrying someone else's cross or where you're climbing someone else's mountain. And unfortunately, there are people who are codependent enablers, and I used to be one of them. And what we do is we are so afraid of conflict, and we're so afraid of leaving people like that because we don't know what to expect on the other side, right? We usually grew up with them, and the idea of abandoning someone, it just fills us with dread and guilty conscience, and it's just really, 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 really hard. So what we need to do is, in those cases, is take responsibility for ourselves, but also let the other person take responsibility for themselves. Let them feel consequences of their actions so that they can at least somewhat learn from their life to change the behavior and not hurt everybody. So look for these three things, all right? Look for attention seeking, and an overt narcissist is going to be pretty easy to spot when it comes to that. Again, it's chronic. They're doing this all the time. They cannot stand anybody else having the mic, anybody else getting attention, getting love. They need to be the ones that are getting the most all the time. And in a covert way, it can be in a case of a covert narcissist, it can be seen as this sort of, this person is kind of collapsed on themselves, who are looking for constant pity and empathy and validation that they are great. It's just that they're misunderstood, that the world owes them and the world hurt them. And so now you need to be next to them and give them the fuel so they can function. So you basically become emotional regulator for people like that. And it's not something I recommend you do. I've done that in the past, and it's extremely exhausting, and it can lead to chronic symptoms such as fatigue, headaches, stomach aches, all sorts of things, because we're not made to do that for an extended period of time. We are individuals who all need to have a certain amount of energy to give to others as well as to ourselves, who function great in a collaborative environment. So we can do some things together, but we can also do some things apart. There needs to be balance, there needs to be harmony that works well, and you're the one who's going to have to discover what that is for you. So attention seeking, chronic attention seeking, chronic selfishness, it's all about them, it's all for them, it's all about what do I get out of this for me. It's exploitative, it's manipulative. So look for that, and then the victim underneath. When you put the three together and your intuition is starting to communicate to you in a form of visceral communication, like you're kind of shutting down, you feel yourself collapsing on yourself, you're no longer open, you're no longer relaxed, there's tension that begins to show up in your body. Pay attention, because we don't have any emotional mechanism that's hardwired into us that protects us from falling in love with disturbed, disordered, narcissistic people. And the reason why is because of our attachment system. If we are easy to attach, then the little bit of love bombing that they do in the beginning, the showing up as altruistic people who are basically here to solve all your problems, that can get you in trouble, because it can take only a few days, sometimes a few hours, to attach to another person, and then it can get very difficult to detach from them. So my advice is to take your time in your relationships, especially in romantic relationship. Really observe this person from the side. Don't jump into conclusions too quickly. Just observe, use your intuition, use your reason, get educated. Again, learn to detach by being inside of your body, by spending time with yourself, by learning about your needs, by tending to your emotions, by learning to be by yourself rather than freaking out that you're alone. Learn to do this. Learn to take that distress and regulate yourself. It's a process, but oh my gosh, when you learn to do this, it's going to be so freeing, so that you will no longer feel like you need somebody to fill you up, like you need somebody to fix you. And when you come from a place of security and inner stability, I'm not talking like 100% perfection here, but you'll know when you reach that place, and then you start dating, then you start meeting people, your likelihood of meeting someone toxic will go way down. Okay, so learn to detach, tend to yourself. It's not selfish. It's actually a very responsible thing to do. Have a circle of friends to talk to, so you can also validate yourself and validate them and your experience. Focus on what's right for you. Learn about things that work and do them more, and the things that don't work and do them less. Learn to observe people so you can make a sound judgment. Again, use your intuition and your reason to discern. Don't rush into relationships and in life in general. I'm going down a bit of a list that I prepared here. That's how you see me looking to the side. And learn to take care of as many of your emotional needs as you can, and only attach to people once you deem it safe, and do so gradually, and always maintain a degree of emotional independence. It's really important. It's going to give you power, personal power, that is really good to have in life. There's good power and there's toxic power. Everything that is too much, like taking too much responsibility for someone, or like taking zero responsibility, or like having so much power, that you can control other people, or having no power at all, so you feel desperate And that can also drive you to committing bad actions and getting entangled with bad people. So those things are just not ideal. They are maladaptive. Where you want to go towards is the middle. Find your middle. Find the place that feels good and comfortable so you can walk on 2 feet, you can get that symmetry going in your life, so it's not easy to knock you off balance, because it's usually when you're knocked off balance that the bad guys swoop in and trouble happens. So I hope this was helpful. Again, do share in the comments, what do you think? Do you have any other ways that help you discern whether you're dealing with a narcissistic people? Share with us. We're all here to educate ourselves and each other. And then a few words about the retreat. So now we finally have our dates. It's going to be for 6 days in Sicily, September 25th. That's when we begin. It's a Monday. And we're going to meet in Sicily. We're going to be eating delicious food, making ceramics, and I'm going to be leading coaching circles that will last anywhere between 2 hours. We might go even a little bit longer. And they're all going to be themed, because I'm going to be taking you through a specific process, starting with trauma and understanding it, knowing how to sense it in your body and how to work with it somatically and mentally, and then moving towards deeper and deeper empowerment. So we're going to be having a great time. If you're interested, there is an email address beneath this video. You can send an email to Annetta, just say Sicily Retreat in the subject line, and we're building our email list. We already have quite a lot of people. We only have like 3 spots left at this point, but we might open up to a larger group depending on what happens. But right now it's limited to 10 people. So we'll put you on the list, and soon, within the next few days, we're going to start sending out emails with more info. So thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate you listening to these videos, sharing them, liking them, commenting on them. It helps to spread them far and wide to the people who need them. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time.